This podcast contains explicit language and is for mature audiences only. If you're under 18, this show is intended more for your parents.
So, take that mental image with you and get back to doing your homework. We are a couple choosing to share our personal experiences and opinions that should in no way be misconstrued as professional advice.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones.
And together we are the hosts of the We Got a Thing podcast. We are in the Mid-Atlantic area, and we just started podcasting a few months ago. We are going to stray a little bit from our normal format today, as we have an opportunity to have a conversation with Cooper Beckett. And Cooper is, we'll introduce him when we get to that segment, but we're just excited that he's able to, join us and have a conversation about his new book.
As we have entered into lifestyle over the last year, we have really relied on podcasts and books and other forms of research to help us learn about what a healthy relationship and the lifestyle looks like. And of course, Cooper's podcast, Life on the Swingset, has been an integral part of that. And some of the books we have read have really kind of been a disappointment. There's a lot of good podcasts out there that we've been able to find that resonate with us. But the books are kind of hit or miss. And Cooper Beckett has just put out a new book about a month ago, and it's called My Life on the Swingset. And this book has really been an eye-opener for Mr. Jones and I. He chronicles his adventures in the lifestyle, both the good and the bad and the ugly, and the positive throughout the 5 years that he has been in the lifestyle. And some of the chapters have been really home runs for Mr. Jones and I as far as our takeaways from them. It's like we could have almost written it about ourselves. So we are just so excited to be able to talk to him today.
Right. And podcasting in general, because this is... we're using the term normal now for being in the lifestyle.
We've come a long way in a year, honey.
Yeah, I know. But Cooper and other podcasters that we've listened to over the past year or two have really helped us to understand what a healthy relationship looks like, whatever your flavor is and however you come into this. It's just good to have kind of pioneers around who have helped to clear the way, smooth the path over for us a bit as we've started our podcast and made it easier for us to follow along. So without further ado, here's our conversation with Cooper Beckett of Life on the Swingset. Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is Mr. and Mrs. Jones from the We Got a Thing podcast, and we have a bit of a special treat today. We are talking with Cooper Beckett, who really probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to try to do that anyway.
It's always good to remind people.
Yes, it is. Cooper is the founder and host of Life on the Swingset, and I think, if I'm correct, about 5 years you've been podcasting.
Yeah, it's 5 years on March 4th.
Okay, and approaching episode number 200, I think.
5 years and episode 200 on March 4th.
Excellent.
Well, congratulations.
We had we realized that it was going to be very close. And so if people listen to our show, they'll notice a few just like extra episodes sort of got stuck in to fudge the numbers enough to make those happen on the same day.
Right, to sync everything up. Got it, yeah.
Because I couldn't pass up an opportunity for that type of synchronicity.
Right, that's good marketing. Yeah. And so Cooper is a board gamer, a web designer, and now an author. And I think one of the more interesting things, Cooper, is you're a knitter.
I am a knitter, yeah. I've knit, I really just knit scarves because I'm not a talented knitter.
I totally get that. I crochet, and I can do an Afghan because that's just like a big scarf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's about the limit of my capabilities.
The nice thing, especially, I prefer tube scarves, so you knit in the round.
Oh, yeah.
It doubles the thickness and weight, and all you do is just start knitting. You never even have to flip it around. If you don't change colors, you just keep going until it's long enough. That's it. It's the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think you have to have a lot of patience. I try to watch Mrs. Jones do that every once in a while, and it just drives me crazy. But I admire you for
It's soothing.
I find it incredibly soothing. Though
Yes.
I've decided to do the dude sweater from Big Lebowski. And it's really challenging because I have to knit and purl, and I have to change colors, and I have to go to different gauges. So I can't just zone out while I'm knitting. I actually have to pay attention to the knitting. And I'm not sure that I enjoy that as much.
Yeah.
So anyway, Cooper, you have a lot of great quotes, and I don't know if I can attribute this to you, but I'm going to. So,
Okay.
The one thing that
I'll be honest. I'll tell you if I said it or not.
Okay, well, that's optional for you. But so you say, I believe, changing the world one couple at a time.
Yeah.
And that resonates with us because that's one of the reasons why we started a podcast ourselves. And so, to be able to, a lot of times today, I think with the media and with society, we're trying to blanket cover, so many large groups of people. And really, if we're going to make a difference, I really tend to, agree with that quote of changing the world one couple at a time. So we want to talk about this book, My Life on the Swingset, that you just released at the beginning of last month, I believe, right? The beginning of January?
January 6th, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this whole idea of personal digital publishing and, podcasting, and I'm not sure if this is a word, but I like to think of it as like an individuality influence now that we're being able to see. And I'm just wondering if I can use one of your phrases against you, this, the sense of self essay and this idea of breathing new air. And the fact that this is the first book that you've done, and I'm wondering now that you've had a couple of months to kind of breathe this new air, if you might just reflect back and let us know what the last couple of months have been like.
It's been a lot more work than I thought. One of the reasons I did what I did in my first book is a collection of essays from the website, is because I was having trouble getting a few of my actual new content books written. And I thought, well, this will be an easy way to get started, an easy first book. And it turned out that it's actually not that easy to take pre-existing content and fit it into a book that creates a narrative, because all these essays, they have overlapping content because they're written over the course of years. And so it's not just callbacks, it's designed to tell someone something who hasn't read the other essays.
Right.
So immediately when I started putting these together, I realized I needed to do extensive writing work on it and then figure out an order to rearrange it. And so it became an awful lot more work than I thought it was, but it also became a lot more rewarding experience than just here's a bunch of essays dumped on the internet, which I think I was really tempted to just compile them and dump them.
Sure.
But as I was working on it, I found the narrative and I found the arc of the story, and it really freaked me out at the beginning because I had no idea how to arrange them, because chronologically didn't make a lot of sense, because there are essays that don't have anything to do with timelines.
Right.
And then when I put them in order of blog posts and articles, that didn't make sense. So I finally found this structure when it was suggested I do it in different parts, and I came up with the conceptually this part is about being a newbie, and this part is about opening up more, and this part about is the hey, we're doing this right, and then this part about is aftermath-ish. And
Well, I love that though, because it allows us to watch your growth, and and the growth isn't always linear. Sometimes you take a step forward and then you're like, uh-oh, and you have to kind of really back up and rethink it, and maybe that pushes you in a new direction. But you can kind of see that as you work through the essays in the book.
I'm glad that came across. And what I found interesting is the essays are pretty extremely out of order. And if you're really, really paying attention to the chronology of what's going on, you can tell that they're out of order. But I think thematically, it works in a narrative structure more so than actual arrangement. So all that work, and right up until the deadline, like I submitted it to Amazon. I decided I'm only going to release it as a Kindle at first. Because Amazon had a great program for releasing a Kindle book, and it locked me in with an exclusivity deal with them for 90 days, so it's exclusive to Amazon till April. But I wasn't going to worry about other things, and then so you have to submit it 7 days before release. And I changed it every day. I submitted a new, and I sent a message like, why haven't my changes posted? And Amazon's like, well, you're really not supposed to be resubmitting it after you have a 7-day lock window.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's why when they say final, that's probably what they mean by final.
Well, and then the subtitle, Adventures in Swinging and Polyamory, I came up with that on the day of release at midnight. So
Oh gosh.
I realized, oh my God, I don't have the word swinging in my title. I don't have the word polyamory in my
those
title.
are keywords you might want to try to catch.
I know. So how the hell are people going to find this on Amazon?
Right.
And so at midnight, they had locked it, so I couldn't change it anymore. Then at midnight, it gets released. And as soon as it got released, it got unlocked. So I was able to update all the data.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And I've made a few minor updates. See, as I'm going through, I'm recording the audiobook right now. And as I'm going through and doing that, I'm seeing little grammatical things that I'd like to change. So I'm making minor tweaks. And the cool thing about the way I've published is it's print on demand, so there's not a stock somewhere, which means I can upload a PDF, and now every new book has those changes.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
And so there have been minor tweaks here and there. And the same thing with EPUB is you upload it, and within 24 hours, it's a new version that people are downloading.
And all of the emotions that come along with this, and you've been through this before with your podcast, but I'm just thinking in my mind, and because we've recently gone through this, is, first you're writing it, you're creating it, you're patching it together, you're meeting a deadline, then it's out there. And so then you're marketing, and you're watching the downloads, and you're talking about an audio version, and you're thinking about a hard copy. So all of this is going on at the same time. So, can you talk about what it was like to be Cooper in Cooper's mind at that point in time?
Well, it's been incredibly stressful, but incredibly rewarding, because, this book, it's funny, as a podcaster, I didn't realize how few people read the website. And as a blogger, I didn't realize how few people listen to the podcast. It's like we have two segments of our audience, and getting them to cross over is actually surprisingly difficult, because people who read articles are likely to read them in a feed reader, and they're reading them on their they're reading them on the toilet, when they're sitting there and taking a moment. And people who listen to podcasts are listening to them on their commute or while they're exercising, and so they're not reading. It's the same thing. Like I get irritated when I see something that looks like, hey, this sounds like a great read, and I get a video instead.
Oh, right.
And it's just like, well, I'm not going to watch that because I'm at work and I can't watch a video, but I can read something and no one knows.
Yeah.
So there's that disconnect between the two of them. So I realized as I was writing this, I'm used to people knowing a lot about me when I don't know a lot about them, because I'm very open on the podcast. So when I try to tell someone something who's a listener, they're like, oh, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right, you're one of those people. Okay. Yeah. Well, tell me what you don't know, and I'll tell you something new. But I didn't realize that people who do read my work probably haven't been reading for multiple years, probably haven't read all of it. So it felt like old information that I was giving them. But at the same time, it's brand new information for most people.
Right.
And putting it together in this semi-memoir format, it really changed it. So I started to get a little nervous about that because the book is like a vivisection. It's here, take a look at my insides while I'm still here to watch you looking at my insides.
Right.
And it got really intense when people started responding to it because, I thought people would like it. I had no idea the level of connection people would have to it. And I mean, it more than blew me away. It actually made me, it's made me question. It's like, okay, now you're not just saying that, right? You're not just telling me what I want to hear.
Right. That's awesome. And I think, what spoke to me is because it was written over a period of time. A lot of times when you get professional advice or you're educated by a professional or you're reading a book, it's somebody that's really in the future of where you are thinking back, but they're coming from a different perspective. The way that you wrote and compiled all of this, when we hear something that happened 5 years ago, you wrote it 5 years ago. And so you're better able to connect with me because that's where I am today. And it's not really filtered through future Cooper. It's really, real time Cooper. And I know people don't plan to do that because that's like, why would I take 5 to 10 years to write something? I want to do it now.
Right.
So the way that it came together, I think maybe is a part of that connection that you're getting along the whole chain of people in a relationship or in a lifestyle like this.
Right, because people new like us, I mean, we can relate to where you were at the beginning, and now we can, read some of your more current essays and see how far you've come, and then we know that, okay, there's hope. Sometimes you just have to push through this, or just, sometimes like in one of your essays you were talking about, it was the one about Zen and about just letting it happen. And I just think that that really spoke to us because, when you have limited time to get out there on dates, you just want it to happen. And sometimes you just can't make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious effort as I was reworking the essays I was changing content but not intent. So when I wrote the essay, I felt this way. And so everything I was changing for clarification purposes, for grammatical purposes, it was with I'm preserving exactly where this essay came from and what this essay said, but I might change how it's being said. So it was actually a process of putting myself back to that moment, remembering how that was feeling, and I was able to even elaborate on those feelings, but still not change what it was about.
Right. So why don't we get into some of the questions we have around the chapters that we read? And,
yes, please.
And, one of the things that struck me that, from Greetings from the Deep End, it's good to be me. I remember the first time that I saw Mrs. Jones with another woman, and it wasn't it's good to be me that came to mind, but when that's exactly what I was thinking at this point in time. Like somebody's transported me into another area that I had no clue that I would ever be in. And right about now, it's just good to be me. and how the hell did this happen? I mean, so around that, I guess, the other thing that you mentioned there is so many people have poor monogamous relationships, and we've experienced that a lot in our vanilla lives, that you can kind of look at a couple that's been together for a while and they just don't seem to get it. They don't seem to be happy. And I'm wondering, how do you start a conversation with somebody around that when you have that observation and not come across as being, I've got something that you don't have?
It's really hard, and I was really bad at it at the beginning because you tend to be evangelical, like severely evangelical, when you first discover something that works better than what you've been doing, And it's great to be able to get to a point where you can mention how your relationship works and not mention how they should be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's really the key to not being the douchebag non-monogamous person,
Right.
who's just like, hey, you know what? You should have an open relationship.
Right, exactly.
Unless that person is coming to you with the request for advice. It's like, look, this is where I'm at. This is how I'm feeling. This is how we're interacting. Then you can say, absolutely, well, you might want to ask for this type of opening up because that might solve your specific issue. But
Right.
it definitely has to be your specific thing.
Makes sense.
You know, you don't want to just throw out non-monogamy as the solution to any problem,
Right.
because then you're just a dick.
Right. And I think in the Why We Swing essay, you mentioned something about, you were talking about why everybody swings, and it's different for everybody. But one thing that you wrote really resonated with us, and you said, we swing because it allows us to see the best in each other and to see why other people find us attractive.
Yes.
And I think we were having a conversation one night, and I kept asking Mr. Jones why he wanted to swing. I mean, he kept saying, I want to watch you with other people because that brings me pleasure when you're experiencing pleasure. And I think I kept thinking that was kind of a cop-out on his part. But when you put it the way you did about being able to see the best in each other, that's really cool. I really, really like that.
Well, it's great because you forget. Monogamy has this way of stripping out your memory of beginning dating this person. And it's just the factor of time which changes how you interact, because everything streamlines over time. Conversation streamlines, sexuality streamlines, your romanticism streamlines, and it can streamline to a point where it's almost non-existent anymore. And you start to think, well, she finds me attractive. That's just the way things are. But this other person, this is why affairs happen. This other person finds me attractive, like real attraction. My wife finds me attractive because, we're married and that's what it is. But wow. And it's being able to recognize that the feelings haven't changed. They're just muted by time.
Right.
And so when you see someone really find your partner attractive, then you can look at that and be like, well, my God, like he finds her attractive and he's a good looking guy and I find her attractive. She must really be, like you get to see that new impression. And when you find those people who are just like, man, you're a lucky guy, you're a lucky woman, then you get that, wow, yeah, I am a lucky guy.
I know. And I think it's the coolest thing that I can watch this beautiful woman flirting with my husband and say, yep, that's my guy. He's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, that person is coming home with me.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and we've been married 30 years. And
wow,
so
congratulations.
Thanks. And so when I see Mrs. Jones in another situation interacting with another man or another woman, there are things that I learn about her after 30 years. You would think that after 30 years, good grief, you got to know everything about each other. But what this lifestyle has done and what this particular quote really means to me is I'm seeing Mrs. Jones in a different light. So it's everything that you just mentioned, but it's also I'm discovering new things about her that I didn't know before. And that just enriches our relationship so much more.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of non-monogamy is it sort of, by virtue of not being able to get stale, because it can't,
right?
Because there's always new. You can discover all these things. Without non-monogamy, I never would have looked into BDSM. Neither, I wouldn't have explored my bisexuality until it built to a point where I could no longer contain it and probably would cheat. That would have been it.
And being in this lifestyle, it's just being around people that are so open-minded. It gives you permission to think about things that used to be so incredibly taboo, because now you can actually openly and frankly talk with people about
Yes.
it, and you don't feel ashamed or weird. And to me, that's one of the most amazing surprises from being in the lifestyle, is just the friendships and the conversations that we can have with people that we can't have with friends that we've been friends with for, years and years and years.
And that's the funny thing. I think that's one of the things that, you want to talk about vanillas and have it not be a dirty word, but that vanilla people are missing is the ability to have real conversations with each
Right.
other. I think most vanilla couples have very, very surface conversations with other
Right.
vanilla couples. And I think a lot of that is because there's an ongoing sexual tension that you just can't talk about.
Right.
If there's 4 attractive people, 2 couples, regardless of how everybody feels about their partner, odds are they're also going to be attracted to the corresponding person on the other side, and possibly to the other person on the other side. So you can't mention that without it being weird in, quote, polite society.
Yes.
And without it being, okay, well, now we can't hang out with the Johnsons anymore because they said you're hot.
Right.
And that's weird bullshit. And it's one of the oddest things that swinging opened up was the ability to have really legitimate conversations about sexuality and attraction with other people that you're actually interested in. Even if you're not going to do anything with them,
Right.
you can still have these conversations.
Right.
You know what I'm thinking of right now, Cooper, is, and I know you love this place. I'm thinking about all the conversations we have around the pool and in the hot tub at Desire.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yeah.
That is a place where you can talk to anybody about anything, and it's just the most amazing environment.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that I go every year. There's a reason that I will try to never miss a year at Desire for the rest of my life.
Yes, we spend a lot of time there too.
We've been there 3 times, and actually we're going to go back in June again.
Yeah.
And it is truly like going home, and it's hard to describe. You can look at a website and look at the amenities, and but until you're there and you experience that environment, it's really hard to describe. But really, it comes close to being this nirvana of an environment that if you could capture that and bring it home, and bring it and have people sit in the middle of that and look around, that would be the best way, I think, to get people to kind of open their minds a little bit and understand what this is all about.
And I think it has, I think it's a lot. To me, it's what people describe Burning Man is. I'm not a burner. I've never been to Burning Man. I don't really think it's my scene. But from everything I've talked to people who do go to Burning Man, they describe it as we spend the year trying to figure out how emotionally to get back to that place.
Yeah.
So that when we go back to that place, it is home. And then we come home and we try, how can we bring that place to our home? And Desire is just like that. It's how can we recapture this indescribable environment, this indescribable connection the rest of the year, because it almost hurts when you can't be there.
I know.
Yeah, no
the whole sliding glass door thing. Yeah, it brought a tear to my eye when I read that. It's awful.
The walk of shame.
The walk of shame with your normal clothes on the morning you have to leave.
Oh yeah, that putting my jeans back on because I don't wear those the whole time.
I know.
Oh my God, it hurts.
It does.
So I wanted to ask you about back to the first breath of new air can cause panic in the sense of self-essay.
Yeah.
Hey, does it get any better? Does it ever get better? Or do we have to experience that? I think what I'm asking is, it is a little bit scary, but once you go through it a few times and it starts to become familiar, so does that sense of panic ever get a little bit easier?
I don't know. I'm a panicky guy. I tend to freak out every time I try something new. I tend to freak out when I'm doing something that I've done before. So probably for normal people it does. Not for me.
Right. Okay.
No, I get that because we tend to err on the side of caution because we don't want to have to experience that panic. So, I don't know that we've actually ever really missed an opportunity, but we know what that feeling of panic feels like, and it doesn't always feel very good.
No,
sometimes
I will say
reward is worth the risk, but
what you have to do is just start ignoring it.
Yeah.
I've never see, that's what it is. It is there all the time. But you can just pretend it's not.
Right.
And do the things. And then the things are amazing, and they are amazing. It's like, for me, the approach in talking to someone new is incredibly difficult for me. And I do really well at a place like Desire where everybody around me is there because I have a podcast. And, hey, they probably want to talk to me. Right. So I don't have to worry about approaching people because odds are they would be interested in having at least a 5-minute conversation with me, if not, rim jobs.
Yeah, Mrs. Jones accuses me of overthinking a lot too. So,
okay.
Let me ask you the difference.
You two have a lot in common.
So what's the difference, Cooper? Because I'm an overthinker as well, but so where is that line between, kind of overthinking and reflecting? And is this another question that you can't really
I don't think he can answer that question either, honey.
Okay. Well, I think overthinking tends to be in the negative portion. Reflection is about learning. Reflection is about learning from the way you interacted with people. Overthinking is about doubting the way you interacted with people.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And so, reflection is wonderful, and it is some of the best things you can do. You sitting back and looking at a new experience and why did it work and why did it not? I asked for a phone number without being weird for the first time in my life on Wednesday. I always dance around it and be jokey and be weird about it because I'm not comfortable just being like, hey, I find you attractive. I'd like to call you.
Right.
And I did that for the first time. Unfortunately, she is monogamous and actually apologized for being monogamous because she was so into it. And it's like, well, okay, can I still be your friend?
Yes.
Is that cool? She's like, oh yeah, absolutely. But it's I don't know how I'm doing it. I can't explain how it's changing. I don't know how the confidence works enough to explain it. But ultimately, there's nothing bad will happen to you by asking for what you want.
Right.
If the worst thing that'll happen to you is no thank you, that's not bad. That's just you didn't get what you want this time. And I don't know why it's so difficult to understand that not getting what you want isn't this horrible thing. Why a no isn't a horrible thing. But
well, I'm afraid that box is going to have a dead cat under it. That's the problem.
Well, if it does, you move on to the next box.
Right.
And that's the recognition. That's it. Because that's all it takes. And when you start asking, it does get easier. I know that.
Right. And then on the other end of it, it gets easier telling people, honestly, no thank you as well.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person where I'm overly considerate, and it's very, very difficult for me to say, you know what, I really appreciate you're really attractive, but, there's just the spark or the chemistry is not there. And at first you struggle because I have to reply because I don't want to leave people hanging.
Right.
So I think I'm getting a little bit better, right, Mrs. Jones?
Yes,
You're
you
gonna
are.
throw me a bone there.
No. Yeah, you're
Okay.
doing much better.
Okay. So
the last thing I wanted to ask you about, Cooper, was your kissy face chapter.
Okay,
And-
making out, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I read this chapter after having 3 dates in a row with couples that have a no kissing rule.
Oh, man.
So
Man.
it's been rough. It's been rough because we do not have a no kissing rule, and kissing is very important to both of us.
I'm probably very hard on the people who have the no kissing rule simply because I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, we don't either.
And I don't mind saying that. I don't understand how kissing is more intimate than oral sex. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. And I mean, because it's the same thing, isn't it, with sex? You're saying that I'm able to disconnect this from love, right?
Right.
So how are you not able to disconnect kissing from love when kissing is such a light impact thing?
right.
Well, it's a light impact thing, but like for me, it's a very important thing. That's
Absolutely.
kind of how I kind of get my motor going. And when I can't do that, then I start doubting myself.
Yeah.
Well, am I allowed to kiss his neck? Am I allowed to nibble on his ear? Or is she? And then the bottom line is, I begin to wonder if the woman even trusts me at all with her
Yeah.
partner. And then that just doesn't really help my libido at all at that point.
I have noticed that the people who have the no kissing policy are pretty new or have major jealousy issues. Do you like that sweeping statement that I just made?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, pretty
If
new.
any of your listeners who are upset about that can just contact me directly, because seriously, that's it's. I don't. I'm going to stop making broad generalizations.
Well,
It's something I think that should be really, really seriously reflected on. Why that is a deal breaker for you,
Right.
and question your motives on why that is. And I think that should be true of anything that is a hard no. Some things absolutely, like bareback sex.
Right.
That's a hard no for me with
Right.
my partner in my swinging situation, but it's a hard no for these very legitimate reasons. And because I can reflect on my rules and say, okay, well, I am protecting from these things which have the potential to impact me in this way. I feel legitimate about that.
Right.
And I feel legitimate about okay, please don't call this person sweetie because that's a relationship thing that we do. I get that. I don't get the kissing thing
Right.
at all.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, I don't think we can solve that one here.
I
but-
would like to think that, by the time we're ready to play with a couple, they would have been able to observe Mr. Jones and I enough to know that they have nothing to worry about, that the intimacy that we're going to share with their partner from kissing them is in no way going to interfere into their relationship or do anything to separate our relationship. It's just part of having fun and making that, I guess emotional is not the right word, but to make that connection with the person that you can actually enjoy the sexual experience you're getting ready to have with them.
Yeah. So Cooper, we know we appreciate you taking the time.
I'm happy to continue.
Okay, well we're gonna go a different
Okay.
direction, but before we leave the topic of your book, I just want to say congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
We both really enjoyed it,
Yes.
and
When we highly recommend it to people in all stages of swinging. It's great for new couples. It's good for couples that have been around the block for a while. And
some of these foundational building blocks that you draw out don't even necessarily have to apply to the topic of monogamy or non-monogamy. I mean, when you're talking about exploring and changing your perception and communication and risk-taking and relationship building, those are fundamental building blocks of like society and humanity. So,
Well, that's why I think non-monogamy has made me a better person. And it wasn't that I was a bad person before, but I I have been very self-centered. I have been the bad friend in the past. And opening up, non-monogamy is not responsible for me now being a great person. Non-monogamy is responsible for me being better at empathy, being better at communication.
Exactly.
And being better at asking for what I want so I don't become the guy who doesn't get what I want and just sulks all day and is a bad friend.
Right, exactly. And for somebody who's been married 30 years, you get to a point and you think you got it figured out. And I'll tell you, non-monogamy has just, I keep saying, oh my gosh, I thought I was a good communicator. But, now we're taking this to a new level. So we certainly hear, even after all this time, we're seeing that, and that's how I think it's easy for people to kind of fall into this sense of like, I think I'm happy, or, I'm just going to coast through the rest of my life because I've got these things that I've collected. But, us taking this chance and this risk and this step at this point in our relationship has been wonderful because it's just renewed everything in your book. And your podcast and other podcasts that we've listened to have really made a difference in that. So just wanted to say, just a personal thank you for that as well.
Oh, man, my pleasure.
And so let me give you a philosophical question to chew
okay,
on here.
hit me. I'm ready.
Okay. So where does Cooper Beckett or non-monogamy in 5 years from now, what are things going to look like in your world and in the world of non-monogamy, do you think?
Well, I think, non-monogamy is on a really, really strong, solid boost right now. The news media is covering the idea of monogamy is passé, marriage is changing. And, Dan Savage is getting a network television series. It's becoming more obvious to people that the boxes don't fit everyone. And that is what will allow us to change. Because that is what we need as a society, is to realize that all these boxes, all these assumptions we've made are correct for some people, but not most people. And I think the LGBT movement has been really pushing that door open as well, because we're seeing varied interests. We're seeing trans people learning about themselves and defining who they are, some for the first time ever. And it's really a beautiful time to see the evolution of relationships and marriage. And what's funny is the media is still trotting out this weird concept of marriage where 50% ends in divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But that hasn't been true for a decade. The divorce rate is actually falling. What's been changing is people are getting married less and less. So people who are getting married are doing it for better reasons. But people are recognizing that they should actually explore it first and determine what they want in life more so than they used to. Because people are starting to think for themselves beyond the societal conventions. And that may be an overly optimistic view of what's happening, and there's obviously still shit everywhere. But I think really we're on a trajectory that it won't be uncommon in 5 years to know people in polyamorous relationships. I think swingers are going to stay underground. The classic swingers are going to stay underground. Mm-hmm. But I do think that people in open relationships, in a broadly defined amalgam of swinging and poly, excuse me, which is how I practice, I don't think there's going to be nearly the stigma in 5 years that there is right now. And I think a lot of that is people are really embracing their need to talk about it. Look at all the swinging podcasts. It's amazing because I'm going to guess for you two. You listened to swinging podcasts. Yes. You discovered swinging, and you thought, hey, we should talk about this.
Right.
Yeah. because that's what happened to me. And that's what happened to every other swinging podcaster I know. And that's what happened to everybody writing books about swinging that I know. It's because we want to share this cool thing.
Right.
And the more people that are sharing this cool thing will beget more people sharing this cool thing, which will mean awareness is built. Because that's what we need more than anything else in non-monogamy is awareness. And to not fight with each other, the poly
and when
people.
you hear somebody, like you, who you can tell you're a highly intelligent person, and well, of course I'm going to say that. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my.
But you listen to these podcasts, and they're like normal people that have this extracurricular part of their lives, and it makes it seem less taboo, less weird.
And that's what the world needs.
I don't think general society understands what it's really about.
They need to see that we're not unusual.
Right.
I think 50 Shades of Grey is an interesting flashpoint for open discussion of sexuality. Because on one hand, it's putting concepts like anal fisting and butt plugs into the heads of mainstream America who have likely never heard the words anal fisting in a film ever.
Right.
So that's awesome because what that's doing is it's putting the germ in. The seed is there. And for some people that's going to grow. Not for everybody. Obviously, it's not going to change the world. But that one aspect is these people are then going to go to other people and ask questions.
Right. And
the more normalcy can come out with it, because Christian Grey is douchebag incarnate here. He's not normal guy who's into this thing.
Right.
And normal girl in this movie is trying to change him back to normal guy. So we need to show normalcy. Right. Because when we do, it's really hard to discount us. And that's the value of opening up and coming out of the closet. I recently told my parents about what I do.
Yes. And
my parents have decided we're not going to talk about it, which is fine because we don't need to talk about it. But the next time that comes up in conversation amongst their social circle, they're unlikely to make broad sweeping judgments about it because they know me and they know I am pretty normal.
Exactly.
My siblings know about it, so when they hear about their friends doing these things, it's less likely to be judgmental because I do these things.
Right, and I think we're hoping that, and we just saw it last night, and Mrs. Jones read the books. She read all three of them, and then she convinced me to go read the three of them so that we would be able to talk about that, and we did. And then we just saw the film last night, and I think what I'm hoping is that your comment about opening the opportunity for a conversation, I hope that people that are in the lifestyle or non-monogamous will not be too harsh or judgmental on people who still don't get it, but use it as an opportunity to inch the conversation forward a little bit in a genuine way, so that when you come across somebody, you don't have to beat them up and say, and be holier than thou, but maybe come across and say, well, you know what, let's talk about that. And what does that really mean? And,
absolutely.
And I thought about that when we left the theater last night. I mean, I felt strange because when we got up to leave, I would say that the ratio were probably about 80%, 85% women to men, and there were clusters of women sitting together. And I walked out scratching my head thinking, what sort of relationship is at home when these clusters of ladies, and it may not be a bad thing, but it was just an observation of where potential relationships are and where potential conversations could be had, starting with the point of 50 Shades.
Oh, I fully agree, and I think it's been rather detrimental how a lot of our bloggers have approached it, because they're so quick to just say, "Oh my God," and I think it's a piece of trash in general. the writing is incredibly poor. And as a film, it doesn't hold up. I'm a film guy. And as a film, that is poorly constructed. It was good to look at. I will give it that. But what they've been doing is they're so negative about it that people who want to talk more are not going to. And so really the really smart blogging move, the really smart sex toy store move is what I've seen them doing, which is say, hey, you liked 50 Shades of Grey? Let's talk about that.
Right.
And you know, the book 50 Shades almost single-handedly saved brick-and-mortar sex toy stores in America. So if nothing else, we can thank E.L. James for revitalizing our wonderful sex toy stores, because they were hurting hard from the recession.
Right.
And then this book came. And then people started talking about it.
Right, and so, you know, E.L. James, not to compare her to you, but still, you have somebody, you know, some individual had a message, did not go through a traditional publishing house and editor staff and, you know, and all the old brick and mortar rules of how you publish a book, and a message gets put out there, and arguably, you know, whether you like her writing style or whether it holds up, the fact that she was able to do that and draw so much attention, and the fact that you've been able to do that, and going back to what you said about Dan Savage and this momentum that the lifestyle has. So this vacuum that's being created, how does Life on the Swingset and how does We Got a Thing, our podcast, and how does, and maybe this leads us into the conversation about Catalyst Con, you know, how do we galvanize and how do we understand that this opportunity is there? And how do we, you know, kind of come together and ask and kind of let's quit the nitpicking between the different genres of non-monogamy and let's look at the bigger picture. So, you know, how do we kind of help get into that vacuum is my question.
Oh, man, heady. It's scary because this is not the first time non-monogamy was a nexus point in society. You know, in the 70s, non-monogamy was a thing, and a thing that a lot of people talked about and did. And I think a lot of that was, it was the teenagers of the 60s grew up and still wanted to embrace that. Unfortunately, something really bad happened, the 80s, and AIDS, and ruined it. I'm really hoping that we as a community can impress the value of what it is we're doing beyond we're fucking each other.
Right.
Because, you know, that is awesome. And that is why I got into this in the first place, because I wanted to fuck a lot of people. And I get that. And that's the thing that the right wing doesn't understand, or they understand it, but they don't like it. Because we shouldn't want to fuck a lot of people. We do.
Well, they won't acknowledge it.
Right, exactly. Or if we want to, we should repress that. But, you know, it sort of reminds me, like, we have this great momentum, and there was something Hunter Thompson said in Fear and Loathing where he was talking about the 60s and the glory of the 60s, that we thought our message was so true and our energy was so right that we had the momentum and we were riding the crest of that beautiful wave. But Hunter Thompson's wave rolled back. And that terrifies me, because it does feel like we're riding this momentum and we're seeing society, we cracked it. It's been cracked open, you know, and as these kids who are taking endless nude pictures of themselves on their phones and sending it to everybody, you know, and I'm not in any way judging, because I take lots of nude pictures of myself on my phone and send it to people consensually. They ask for it. I want to make that clear. But these kids are going to grow up, and then that's normal. You know, as the old guard dies, and really that's what it is is we're seeing the last of a generation start dying. How morbid is this discussion suddenly?
No, but it's true, that whole mindset.
The younger people are looking at things differently. And that's just the way it is. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a steep drop in the current conceptual idea of conservatism, a steep drop in the importance of religion in society. You know, atheism is the fastest growing portion of our population. And those things, as they start falling, they're going to leave in their wake a whole lot of people searching for meaning. And the value of searching for meaning is maybe you get to discover meaning on your own. Because when you discover what means something to you, it has so much more value than somebody telling you this is what should mean something to you. Right. And that's what traditional society and religion has done for us, is it's told us what values there are rather than letting us find them.
Right, and that's where we come in, because we hope that through examples that Life on the Swingset have started. I mean, for us to start a podcast now was so much easier than it would have been 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because you know we get out there, people know what a podcast is, and the
thanks cereal.
Yeah, right. And then so we've been picked up by other Twitter feeds and other podcasters, and so we have an audience out there already. We just have to connect into them, where before you had to kind of trudge through that and create it. So we're hopeful that, and we're going to try to get to CatalystCon, because that looks like a great kind of the beginnings of the bringing together of the right sort of thinking and the right sort of people that can kind of galvanize and then flow into that vacuum. And so we're really hoping that we're going to be able to go to that and meet you all.
I hope so too.
Next month. And we certainly appreciate you taking more time than we had asked you, Cooper, to do this.
No problem. This was a fun and surprisingly heady discussion for early in the day on a Saturday.
Well, I guess there are. We're from Washington D.C., so there's a lot of cynicism, and politics, in this town. So I guess we'll forgive you for being surprised by the heady, conversation that might come from the Mid-Atlantic part of the country. So,
well, and I've gone ahead and done my usual thing, which is irritate the religious people, irritate the conservatives. So I feel like I've done my part here.
Well, that sounds like a topic for a future conversation. So maybe we'll corral you again in the future. And
I would love to come back.
Okay. Well, Mrs. Jones, did you have any?
No, I just appreciate your podcast and your book, and just all of the little tidbits that we can pull that really resonate with us as we grow in our relationship, and as we try to figure out what direction we want to take our podcast in to help educate and enlighten people.
I'm so happy it spoke to you. It's really I think the best way to educate is to put yourself out there.
Right. And
with that book, that's me making all the mistakes so the readers don't have to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Because somebody, you need to be able to see the reality of people. I think it's so much easier to follow someone who you believe is real and has flaws.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Than
and the bottom
who
line
don't.
Is that we're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But you have to just know that that's going to happen, and you have to trust in your relationship that you're going to say, okay, well, I guess we won't do that again, or that didn't work, and you laugh it off, and you dust yourself off, and you get up and try something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks again, Cooper. And
can I talk about all the ways to contact me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. That's okay. So if you want to find the book, you can find it at mylifeontheswingset.com. If you want to find my podcast and our website, it's just lifeontheswingset.com. We have a huge podcast network now that we've just added a number of podcasts to. I think we're up to 6 now.
Yeah, we've noticed.
And it's swingset.fm is the URL for that. You can find my website at coopersbeckett.com. You can find me on Twitter at swingsetlife, and on Facebook at facebook.com/cooper.beckett.
And they can find you at Desire Resorts in November?
Yes, lifeontheswingset.com/desire. You should come to Mexico with us because it's amazing.
Yes,
and,
it is.
And we've already got a huge crew coming.
Good.
And
what are your dates?
We are going from November 7th through the 14th. Now I'm doubting that last day, so I'm going to just scroll through my calendar. November 7th through the 14th. Yes.
Okay. Great.
And I might have to be sick that week.
Well, what's really cool is JV Altheros and Shara from the Ending the Sexual Dark Age podcast.
Your editor,
one
yes.
of our favorite podcasts and the editor of my book. They came for the first time last year to our trip, and they loved it so much they went and booked their own trip that same week with so they've got a block of rooms, and because of that, we may manage to fill the resort with people who are fans of theirs, who are fans of ours, and it would just be fantastic. We were so close last year that it was a lot of people in the remainders of the resort just kind of looking at us like wondering, okay, who are these people?
Well, the episode that you did, and I believe JV may have posted it also, the conversation that you all had at the end of your trip, and just hearing people going around, and you would think when you have a group of people, I don't know how many were there in the hot tub or the pool at that time or wherever you were, 20 or 30, but everybody had something very unique to say about, and that testimonial, and we listened to that. I think I listened to that one twice because we've had those, we've been there, we've had those conversations, and it so resonated with us that's what this is all about. So, and we will put all of that information on our show notes and into our website and the links in there too, Cooper, so people can find you that way. So did we miss anything else, or is that...
if you are going to Catalyst, you can use the promo code SWINGSET to save $10 on your pass.
All right, that sounds good for us.
Yeah,
that's not bad. Hey, that's for you and for your listeners.
Okay.
And I have an audiobook coming.
Right.
And my goal is to have that out in the beginning of spring. And I'm not being any more exact than that because it turns out an audiobook is also a ridiculous undertaking. And despite the fact that I talk a lot, doing that for an audiobook really, really wrecks my voice. So I can't record more than like a half hour in a given session.
Yeah, I've heard you read a couple of snippets from your book, and you definitely change into a different persona when you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. So yeah, but then I think that's it. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Cooper. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Well, wow, that was quite an awesome interview. We were supposed to have him for about a half an hour and ended up hanging on to him for just a little bit over an hour. So it was a great conversation with Cooper. What did you think?
Well, I'm a little starstruck. It's so exciting to be able to meet people that have had such an influence on us as we have, learned more about the lifestyle and what we want to take away from it as a couple. And, Cooper just has so many insights, and he kind of makes it sound easy. I mean, he admits that he screwed up along the way, but, he's learned so much, and he just has the ability to kind of roll with the punches and take something positive out of every experience that he has had along the way.
Yeah. And, I'm kind of, me, I'm kind of a cynical person. That may not come as a surprise to you.
And Mr. Jones and Cooper Beckett have a lot in common. Especially after talking to Cooper today. And, I've seen it in print. I've heard his podcast, but today I'm like, oh man.
I keep looking for reasons not to like the guy, but I can't help it.
Yeah. I think you're kind of almost looking in the mirror when you listen to him, honey.
Well, he's very genuine, and we were just so flattered that he reached out to us, and we were happy to be able to do this. So thank you again, Cooper, and we hope that all of you out there listening to us, and maybe some of you for the first time, we are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and we have, as we mentioned at the outset, we're the hosts of the We Got a Thing podcast. And if you'd like to follow us or contact us or listen to us, we have a website, wegotathing.com. And on that website, you'll find all of our podcasts and, well, all 5 of our podcasts.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. And you'll be able to contact us through that website. We're on Twitter at wegotathing. You can contact us through email at wegotathing@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. You can find us there. We have a Cassidy community. You can find us there. We also have a phone number listed if you'd like to leave us a voicemail. Or, of course, you can comment right on our website itself. So, again, we're just happy to have been able to do this. And any closing thoughts before we sign off here?
I just want to thank everybody for listening, and, just check out our episodes on the We Got a Thing podcast. I guess our niche in the community is that we are a couple that's been married for 30 years, and we've only been swinging for a year. So this has been a big shift for us, and it's been quite the wild ride. And, we've come a long way, but we've got a lot to learn, and our goal is just to kind of share our experiences with everybody.
Yeah, good teaser there, honey. So
I hope so.
If you want to know more about a couple,
check us out.
Why in the world it took us 29 years to get to where we are.
Yeah, we're slow learners.
Yeah, check us out at wegotathing.com. And so anyway, we'll call it a day. And we are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and we got a thing.
What's your thing?
This podcast contains explicit language and is for mature audiences only. If you're under 18, this show is intended more for your parents.
So, take that mental image with you and get back to doing your homework. We are a couple choosing to share our personal experiences and opinions that should in no way be misconstrued as professional advice.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones.
And together we are the hosts of the We Got a Thing podcast. We are in the Mid-Atlantic area, and we just started podcasting a few months ago. We are going to stray a little bit from our normal format today, as we have an opportunity to have a conversation with Cooper Beckett. And Cooper is, we'll introduce him when we get to that segment, but we're just excited that he's able to join us and have a conversation about his new book.
As we have entered into lifestyle over the last year, we have really relied on podcasts and books and other forms of research to help us learn about what a healthy relationship and the lifestyle looks like. And of course, Cooper's podcast, Life on the Swingset, has been an integral part of that. And some of the books we have read have really kind of been a disappointment. There's a lot of good podcasts out there that we've been able to find that resonate with us. But the books are kind of hit or miss. And Cooper Beckett has just put out a new book about a month ago, and it's called My Life on the Swingset. And this book has really been an eye-opener for Mr. Jones and I. He chronicles his adventures in the lifestyle, both the good and the bad and the ugly, and the positive throughout the 5 years that he has been in the lifestyle. And some of the chapters have been really home runs for Mr. Jones and I as far as our takeaways from them. It's like we could have almost written it about ourselves. So we are just so excited to be able to talk to him today.
Right. And podcasting in general, because this is... we're using the term normal now for being in the lifestyle.
We've come a long way in a year, honey.
Yeah, I know. But Cooper and other podcasters that we've listened to over the past year or two have really helped us to understand what a healthy relationship looks like, whatever your flavor is and however you come into this. It's just good to have kind of pioneers around who have helped to clear the way, smooth the path over for us a bit as we've started our podcast and made it easier for us to follow along. So without further ado, here's our conversation with Cooper Beckett of Life on the Swingset. Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is Mr. and Mrs. Jones from the We Got a Thing podcast, and we have a bit of a special treat today. We are talking with Cooper Beckett, who really probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to try to do that anyway.
It's always good to remind people.
Yes, it is. Cooper is the founder and host of Life on the Swingset, and I think, if I'm correct, about 5 years you've been podcasting.
Yeah, it's 5 years on March 4th.
Okay, and approaching episode number 200, I think.
5 years and episode 200 on March 4th.
Excellent.
Well, congratulations.
We had we realized that it was going to be very close, and so if people listen to our show, they'll notice a few just like extra episodes sort of got stuck in to fudge the numbers enough to make those happen on the same day.
Right, to sync everything up. Got it, yeah.
Because I couldn't pass up an opportunity for that type of synchronicity.
Right, that's good marketing. Yeah. And so Cooper is a board gamer, a web designer, and now an author. And I think one of the more interesting things, Cooper, is you're a knitter.
I am a knitter, yeah. I've knit, I really just knit scarves because I'm not a talented knitter.
I totally get that. I crochet, and I can do an Afghan because that's just like a big scarf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's about the limit of my capabilities.
The nice thing, especially, I prefer tube scarves, so you knit in the round.
Oh, yeah.
It doubles the thickness and weight, and all you do is just start knitting. You never even have to flip it around. If you don't change colors, you just keep going until it's long enough. That's it. I mean, it's the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think you have to have a lot of patience. I try to watch Mrs. Jones do that every once in a while, and it just drives me crazy. But I admire you for it.
It's soothing.
I find it incredibly soothing. Though I've decided to do the dude sweater from Big Lebowski. And it's really challenging because I have to knit and purl, and I have to change colors, and I have to go to different gauges. So I can't just zone out while I'm knitting. I actually have to pay attention to the knitting. And I'm not sure that I enjoy that as much.
Yeah.
So anyway, Cooper, you have a lot of great quotes, and I don't know if I can attribute this to you, but I'm going to. So,
okay.
The one thing that
I'll be honest. I'll tell you if I said it or not.
Okay, well, that's optional for you. But so you say, I believe, changing the world one couple at a time.
Yeah.
And that resonates with us because that's one of the reasons why we started to podcast ourselves. And so, to be able to, a lot of times today, I think with the media and with society, we're trying to blanket cover, so many large groups of people. And really, if we're going to make a difference, I really tend to, agree with that quote of changing the world one couple at a time. So we want to talk about this book, My Life on the Swingset, that you just released at the beginning of last month, I believe, right? The beginning of January?
January 6th, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this whole idea of personal digital publishing and, podcasting, and I'm not sure if this is a word, but I like to think of it as like an individuality influence now that we're being able to see. And I'm just wondering if I can use one of your phrases against you, this, the sense of self essay and this idea of breathing new air. And the fact that this is the first book that you've done, and I'm wondering now that you've had a couple of months to kind of breathe this new air, if you might just reflect back and let us know what the last couple of months have been like.
It's been a lot more work than I thought. One of the reasons I did what I did in my first book is a collection of essays from the website, is because I was having trouble getting a few of my actual new content books written. And I thought, well, this will be an easy way to get started, an easy first book. And it turned out that it's actually not that easy to take pre-existing content and fit it into a book that creates a narrative, because all these essays, they have overlapping content because they're written over the course of years. And so it's not just callbacks, it's designed to tell someone something who hasn't read the other essays.
Right.
So immediately when I started putting these together, I realized I needed to do extended